Hello and welcome to another Wednesday evening. Another album club is befallen you. We have a special guest host for a couple weeks since our buddy Kellen is out on vacation. We got the Brainsmasher himself filling in. Ben, how you doing?
Pretty excellent. Thanks for having me again. This chair always will belong to Kellen, but it is my honor to sit here and warm it up with farts.
Well, we're happy to have you as always. Always a good time. Jim, how are you?
Doing good, man. It's Wednesday.
It is Wednesday.
And all that comes along with that.
That's right. Tej, how's it going, man?
Whatever. I don't know.
He's had another wonderful week of exploring his inner black metal demons and loving every minute of it. We all know that. Yep. But yeah, we might as well. You're up there, TJ. Why don't you show us what you've been spinning this week?
I got a bunch of stuff. I got some honorable mentions, some stuff I don't own. I was checking out that new Eternus track. I don't know if anybody's heard
I have
that
not
at
checked
all.
it out yet.
You know, it's not Under the Wandering Moon, but it's cool. It's a return to form. In
The last album, Heathen, was really good. It was kind of like the old vein. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't heard it. And then listening to Weekend Nachos, Worthless, and another bizarre kind of black metal band called, like, I don't know if it's black metal, but they call it black metal. It's Forest of Stars. You wear the sword you can't see.
Oh yeah, they're friends of the Woden's Throne guys. Yeah, they're from England.
It's interesting for sure. And then everybody can see it. Swallow the Sun, Morning Never Came, Mother of Graves, Where the Shadows Adorn, and then Sulfur Aeon. Yeah,
Gateway to the
Gateway to the Antisphere. This is the one with the really cool box wrapped deal.
I'm gonna go back and get all their stuff, man. I've been listening to the new one online. I haven't got my pre-order yet, but holy shit, that record's amazing, dude.
That's why I started listening to this, is because my pre-order's on the way.
Alan's got a review for that album. I have to get that edited here in the next day or so.
Oh my god, I love it, dude. I've been listening to it over and over.
Right, I heard I listened to part of the first track and it, it's like, okay, hooray. So I ordered it,
All right. Ben, what have you been spinning?
Got this in the other day. This is finally back on wax.
Good stuff.
Thanks to Music on Vinyl. I don't know. I absolutely love this band, but I feel like I always have to make myself listen to them. They're not kind of something that's just like inherent in my blood like I would like them to be, but when I play them, just like, why don't I always listen to this band? But then a couple of like death metal demos by Rancid Christ called Baptized in Blasphemy has been blowing my fucking mind. And then what's the other one? Dead Serenade from Indiana with their demo Sorrow Breeds. Look into it, nerds. It's good shit.
Alrighty.
Dead Serenade is like pre-November's Doom.
Oh, right on. Right on. Jim.
I picked this up used. It's Everlock.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Nice.
I forgot how good this thing was. I haven't listened to it.
That's a good catch for used, yeah.
Man, I loved it, dude. The guy absolutely didn't know what he had. It was he wanted $15 for this, and it's in perfect shape. I was just like, oh man, and I was blasting this. I mean, the record sounds absolutely perfect. I forgot how awesome this was. It was really good to hear this again and to finally get it on physical. So, and as you know, completely back on the Manila road trip. So got some Open the Gates. I also picked up the Deluge and Mystification, and been spinning all three. But yeah, I just wanted to show this one. Man, I love this cover so much. And
the song Astronomica on that rules. God, that's so good.
Oh my God, Astronomica ruled. And I love the Ninth Wave. I mean, I love the whole record, dude. Metal Strum, the whole thing is awesome. And I gotta say, once again, I'm proud of my non-metal wife, dude. I was playing this and she goes, "What is? I like this. This is great." And I was like, "The Metal Church, the debut of Metal Church." Now she's a Manila Road fan. I'm just like, she just keeps on impressing me. So, stuff.
Right.
Oh
on.
yeah. Also, Sulfur Aeon, man, that new one. Oh my god! If you guys haven't heard it yet, please check it out. I cannot wait to get that one in. It's I love it. And you know what, Marty? I got to tell you, you tried to turn me on to them a long time ago, and I didn't. For some reason, the older stuff didn't connect with me. But ever since I've been spinning this new one, it really now all of it is, and so I want to go back and get all their stuff. I mean, I don't know why I didn't get it at first, but I get it now, man. I really do.
Oh, they're awesome.
Right on.
Yeah.
All right. For me, I got a couple things that I pulled off the pile. My buddy Zoller sends me a bunch of stuff every year, and I'm slowly pick through it. Barbaric Persecution by Torture Rack.
Oh, right on.
I threw this on just for shits and giggles, and you know what? It's not reinventing any wheel, but it's pretty solid death metal. I liked it. Dark, heavy, well produced. Yeah. Can't remember where they're from. It's not something I'm going to listen to a lot, but you know, pretty solid. And also,
I like a good rack.
What's that? You like a good rack?
You like a good rack.
Who doesn't? And then, what is this called? Evil Upheaval by Depravity. This is on Transcending Obscurity. So if you're familiar with that label at all, you kind of get a vibe for what this is. It's, again, really well done, solid, kind of modernish death metal. Really well done, really well produced. I was surprised. Pretty good songs. It's not a bunch of youngins trying to sound old school by, you know, turning up the reverb. There's actually riffs and songs here. It's good. Only spun it a couple times, but I like it. Good shit. But the reason we're here this evening is I picked the 15th full-length album by Marduk called Memento Mori. Come out a month or two ago on Century Media Records. And a little bit of this is a super brief history because this is a band. If you are at all familiar with, you know, Swedish black metal, they're kind of a legacy band. They came out in
90.
They came out in 91. This is their first demo. But the band Marduk is a Swedish black metal band formed in Norrköping in 1990. The band released their debut full-length album Dark Endless in 1992 on No Fashion Records. Their name is derived from the ancient Babylonian deity. I always said Marduk. The Europeans say Marduk. I don't know. It's always Marduk to me. I guess the E at the end would dictate the U sounds like a U. So maybe it is Marduk. I don't know. So, but from here forward, I'm going to say Marduk because that's just what my feeble brain has always referred to it as. But Memento Mori. First impressions. TJ.
No, you couldn't leave me till the end. Well, you might as well get me out of the way. That's fine. How did I see if I got this quote right? A Herculean effort by four talented dudes to sound utterly dimensionless. I hate this record. I mean, it's like, is there some cool shit going on and whatever, we'll get into it. Whatever. I found this to be just utterly boring. I enjoyed Damon way more than I enjoyed this. I'm coming more and more, deeper terms with my love-hate relationship with black metal and kind of starting to figure out why, I don't enjoy certain things as much as others. And, it's this record, I think, kind of exemplifies what I dislike the most about black metal. Is about how kind of empty and one-dimensional it can be. But that's kind of that's where I'm at first impression wise. So move along. I have some other hot, interesting takes. I don't know if we're going to get into any of this or not, but once again,
pages upon pages.
Yeah, I was doing some research on Mortuus and thought, well, interesting facts and I about Mortuus, but I accidentally got them mixed up with some K-pop stuff I was looking up for my grandkids. So I don't know if we'll get into any of this or not. But anyway, let's move along.
What was Damon? You said something about Damon. Is that a Marduk album?
No,
No, it was the
Mayhem.
Mayhem record we did.
We covered it a couple episodes ago, which I got to thank Rick Rick from the Dreadful Minutes. He just sent me a package with Damon on vinyl. So thanks, Rick. kind of surprised to open it up and see that sitting there. I'm like, oh, I just listened to this. Cool. All right, Ben, first impression on Memento Mori.
So I don't dislike Marduk. I am for the last 10 years, I'm a fair weather fan at the very most. So this was nothing unfamiliar whatsoever. I just kind of thought, it's been a while since I checked in on them. I may have listened to one of the last 3 albums for a minute or so. I guess I was a little interested to see that they had dropped the World War II stuff or whatever. And this is, I think, I can tell that there's a poeticism that they're trying for to kind of reapproach the idea of death from a more poetic sort of realistic sort of way. I don't know. They're trying something a little bit different than what everyone else is doing, but it's really just the same monotonous blasting that we know Marduk does okay at pretty well. So I don't know. I kind of bounced back and forth on this. I liked it at first, but with all this kind of stuff, I just went, it's good at first, and then I just go, yeah, whatever. So I've got some more thoughts on it, but really that's my overall summary of my first approach on it.
All right, Jim.
So back to the important stuff. I too used to always say Marduk, and somebody corrected me once, or I thought they did. And they said, "Hey man, it's Marduk." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And he's like, "Look it up." Blah blah. Anyway, but I'm glad everybody's saying Marduk because I think it sounds cooler. So I'm gonna go with that too.
Yeah.
I've kind of like Ben. I've just kind of been in or out on Marduk. I only have one album of theirs, Wormwood. And I'm not even sure how I got that. I think I got it from your distro, Marty, a long time ago. But that was my kind of thing. Your distro?
No, those are the. He's showing those of the Unlight.
Oh,
I like that album.
Yeah. There we go. Yes, those are the Unlight. I like the cover, and but yeah, I'd always hear their stuff and be on the fence, but never quite pull the trigger. I'm almost bought Front Schwein, I think. But man, I put this in and just kind of, expected, it's going to be blasting all the way through and fast and good, but not great. That's kind of how I see Marduk. But man, I actually really like this though. I was surprised. I love the production. I love the production on. I love that the bass is super loud. You can hear it all the way through.
Yeah.
It's real clangy. It's like if Dee Dee Bernie was on a meth trip, you know what I mean, and had stolen a police car. You know what I mean? That's what I was. It's that's how fast.
Kind of a Dee Dee Verdi tone. You're correct there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's overkill on crack in terms of the bass sound, and it's ever present, which of course you guys know I love that, and and I love the occasional French horns that pump through, which are really weird places, unexpected. But so yeah, I was surprised. If anything from Marduk, for me, it's Mortuus, it's Funeral Mist, it's Maranatha. I love that album. I love his vocal on that. They're just so weird and creepy and almost like a vomitous demon sound of, when Mortuus vocals that always creeps me out when I listen to that record. The cover is really disturbing too on Maranatha. That's kind of my favorite thing that he did. But this album, man, really stuck with me. And, it's funny. I even messaged Marty and I said, if this album sticks with me, I might like it. But like Ben, I was afraid of is it going to be one of those things where I like it at first and then not stick with it, because that's typically why I've never actually pulled the trigger on other Marduk albums. But throughout the week, man, I have not gotten tired of it. I've liked it, so I think I might actually be buying this one. I was surprised. I don't know. I wouldn't say that Marduk has turned a corner, but I think that they've like kind of maybe massaged their sound just enough for me to find it more than, you know, my usual level of interest for their output. So,
all right. Well, for me, first impression, is it Panzer Division Marduk 2.0? I've got every single Marduk album except for Victoria. I have not gotten around to get it, and every time I decide I'm going to check it out, it's more money than I want to spend. And I've always liked this record a lot. It's kind of like the Rain and Blood of Swedish black metal. Marduk has got there's a difference between Swedish and Norwegian black metal. Norwegian black metal is more astral, more atmospheric. Sweden is a lot more blasting and, you know, the occasional, you know, Swedish style melodies. But another album I really like is Heaven Shall Burn When We Are Gathered. I'm a big fan of the Legion era, and Mortuus or Mortuus, however you say his name, this was his first album with the band. Plague Angel came out in 2004. I always thought he was a good addition, but it wasn't until this album that I never really realized. I've been listening to this a lot on headphones, how absolutely filthy his performance is. It is gross. It is really, his vocals on this album sell this album for me. I mean, I like the album. I like the speed. When I'm in the mood for it, I'm like, yeah, this album is great. And when I'm not in the mood for speed, I've found, I'm like, some of the things, me and TJ have talked about this, you know, off campus, and some of his complaints I agree with. He's not wrong. But when I'm in the mood for it, it fits. It just hits really well. But for me, it's the intensity of the album I really, really like. But the saving grace, the king of this album is Mortuus. His vocals are just absolutely disgusting on here. I'm just kind of blown away at how gross his vocals are. It's just, you could hear all the shit in his throat gurgling and trying to escape.
I completely agree. We talked about this at practice, and it's one of the redeeming values that this record has had for me is just his vocal performance. His vocals are just absolutely, just insanely good. I just absolutely, you know, I'm listening to him, and I can hear him contorting his mouth and his throat to produce some of the sounds he's getting. And I mean, there was points where I'm thinking, like, if I were to try to do that, I would be gagging, you know, I'd be throwing up. It's very extreme, you know, and I absolutely, and we can get in. And
you can even understand what he's saying, which is
his diction is excellent, and his delivery is just absolutely top notch on this. I 110,000%, you know, concur with that on this. You know, I will get into it further. I got it in my notes here, but you know, I just had to say, yeah. His vocals on this are just
it's super gross. It's in a good way gross.
Oh yeah.
All right, and the question I came up with for tonight is kind of a little different from I could have went more philosophical, this or that, blah blah blah, but I went this route. And it's funny because I said the blast beat, and I spelt beat B-E-E-T. Because I'm and it did show corrected because it's an actual word. It's just funny. Anyway, the blast beat has been an amazing percussion evolution for metal, elevating the feeling of intensity for extreme metal to utterly devastating heights. Born out of hardcore, enhanced by grindcore, and perfected by death and black metal, this once percussive enhancement has become the cornerstone of many bands' sound and style. Marduk is no stranger to the speed. Having released 15 albums that rely heavily on this drumming style, do you see it as a powerful or limiting tool all these years later? Is it a crutch? Is speed a crutch? Ben, you're the guest. You go first.
Yes. Quite a bit. It's pretty great. I like a lot of blasty black metal. But I think all in all, at the end of the day, for your art to have depth and diversity and dimension and personality, I think you've got to have some variation into it. And like the greater those variances are from the more extreme moments, I think the more poignant those more extreme moments can be. So when you can use a blast beat to a great effect by adding it among other things with, you know, other ideas going on, that's when the like it really has the power and the punch to it. So like a lot of bands, I feel like just have coasted by just blasting away a lot and having very little variation, and people just love the blasting and they get addicted to it and that's all they want. And you can just kind of get 15 albums out of a band like this with blast beats and people still kind of care. But yeah, at the end of the day, I feel like I could live without blast beats in favor of a more diverse tool belt for people to work with. But if it wasn't for this, it would be something else. You know, it'd be something else that's used too much.
And this is coming from a drummer, an actual drummer. So you're
an actual drummer.
Actual drummer, yes.
Yep. We're playing in a very blasty black metal band.
Exactly. Yep. Jim, your thoughts? Good. Well stated, Ben. Jim.
Yeah, I think that in most cases, if it's all you do, it'll definitely become one note, non-dimensional type delivery on an album, and it'll be something that even if it's exciting at first, you're not going to return to it. At least I won't. And with Marduk, it's so associated with all their albums. You just expect like blasting ferocity all the way through. And like I said earlier, like I'm always like, oh, this is cool, but it only once have I ever pulled the trigger and bought one. And I think part of it is that reason. I think because there wasn't enough variation for me, even though it was, I think, extremely well done, and I like the vocals and stuff, and and Legion's got a great voice too. For some reason, it was just never enough for me. But on this one, and maybe there's more variation than I remember. I know the first couple albums have a lot of death metal type sound on the riffs.
Yeah,
first one in particular.
Yeah, first one is definitely, except for the vocals, pretty much death metal. Yeah. Period. But later, once they got into what we think of as Marduk, it was pretty much blasting all the time. So yeah, I think with most bands, it would be easy for me to dismiss them. But interestingly enough, for me with Marduk, like it's. I so expect that, like I almost think it would be weird. It wouldn't be Marduk if it wasn't that way, I'm not. That's not an excuse for them, but I'm so used to hearing that from them, like, because even though this album has variation on it, it's still mostly blast beats, and if it was like something less, then I almost feel like I'd be disappointed, like. If that makes any sense. So I would say in most cases, it can be overdone. And but I think most bands, especially in the modern age, do go for a variety. And like I will say, even for grindcore, the more heavily reliant on blasting the grindcore band, then the less likely I am to pick it up. The more interesting elements a grindcore band puts into their sound, like are there cool tempo changes, are there different riff structures, or are there cool samples or whatever, like I'm gonna be more apt to listen to it more or actually buy it, so it can get to the point where it'll push me to the side if that's the vast majority, but as long as there's some kind of variation or something that kind of tweaks it enough to make it a little bit more memorable, I'm okay with it. So that's all. I know that's a little bit of a non-answer because I really got to take it album by album. I like to say that I'm not a fan of bands, I'm a fan of albums, but in this, for Marduk though, it's just a part of their character, and I think it's okay.
TJ.
Actually, Marty, I think this is a great question. I think we've talked about this a little bit on the side on our own. For those of us, I mean, we were there when blast beats happened. It's like I remember the first time I heard a blast beat, it was Carcass, and I was completely floored by what they were doing. I mean, it blew me away. That dynamic, that speed. When you think Slayer is the fastest band on earth at the time, or or Possessed, or whatever it might have been at the time. I always thought like Pestilence's first record was always faster than Slayer. I always thought, but that being said, it was an amazing dynamic, and then like everything else, it leached out into the flora and fauna of metal music, and every band, as soon as they heard it, it's like, oh my God, how do I do this? And before you know it, all these bands are leaning on it, and it becomes this thing that where it just takes on this dynamic that I think it kills creativity in music, and I think it can destroy good songs, and it can destroy killer riffs and great arrangements by just disassembling everything at 250 beats per minute. I love blast beats, but truth be told, if I never personally like writing and stuff, if for our bands, if we never use a blast beat again, it wouldn't hurt my feelings. Do I want to dismiss them outright? No, but it's just not at this point of it's where it's become this kind of just insanity. And believe me, I like like Nile. I love Nile, Nazem. I'm just pulling things out of the ether at this point. I love grind stuff. Weekend Nachos is a grind band. But there's dynamics, there's light and shade. They use it with appreciation to what they're trying to accomplish, and to use it to carry the song over. With this record, man, it's just like, and if delivery was the winning criteria here, if they fucking did they win with the delivery on this record. I mean, it just blows your fucking head off, right out of it does. It absolutely, but it's just like Judas Priest, man. It's just so fucking boring to me. I just it just two songs where they slow down, and so to me, it was like with the blast beat, it's like I think it no matter what, it'll always be with us. And I think great bands can utilize it and take it and do great things with it. But I think a lot of bands have, and we've, these drummers today, man, some of these guys,
they're insane.
I was reading an article today. This British drummer, I can't remember what band he's in, some band, none of us maybe have ever, I can't remember, but he was throwing shade at all these bands on Instagram about using triggered kicks and stuff, using like backing kicks and live and all this stuff. And these bands in these studios, they go in, the drummers can't play this stuff, and so they're piping it into their recordings, because there's just this need to be so over the top, and it just, to me, it becomes, it just kills creativity. It kills things when it's like, it's got to be so fast. It's just like, dude, if you can't play it, then don't do it. Seriously. And so, Neil, sure, man. Neil didn't need to, that's why Neil Peart was one of the most amazing drummers that ever existed, because he knew how to be musical with his kit. And the blast beat, it can be an amazing element. It can be an amazing attribute to a song. I mean, like I was telling Mari, like that song "Teeth in the Red" by Dead Congregation. I always forget the name of the record. That is like one of my most favorite songs. And that song's like 9 minutes long, and they move through, and there's just blast, but they're moving through the motions with, and then they kind of breaks down, and at the end, and then it's just and just blasts your fucking skull, and it's so good, it's so fucking powerful. Then they get into that chant thing at the end, and then they bring it back in, and it's so good. It's in the delivery on it, but there's just, again, there's movement, there's light and shade, there's just more going on there. So it's like, to me, the blast beat, it's going to always be a part of metal music. It's never going anywhere. But I feel like, we've reached a kind of an apex of what can be. And I think people should
now there's gravity blast, so it can can go even faster.
I think musicians should be more focused on writing great songs. Because what other hill are you going to climb? What other, how much faster are you going to go? Oh yeah, Craig something or other. But yeah, so again, I think it's a great question, Mari, and I think it's definitely something that a lot of musicians and people, if you're into it and that's what you're craving, like with this record, man. And I see, the one guy's like, oh, it's been in my car and I've been playing it nonstop. And I get the appeal, man. I do, because there are bands that I like that write songs like this and do stuff like that or similar to this, but this just doesn't hit me that way, and it's cool, whatever. I don't mean to be here to be shitting on anybody's thing, whatever. But again, all that aside, Marty, I think it's a cool question, and definitely the blast beat.
Well, I really can't add anything more to what these gentlemen have said. I agree with them, and I just got to look at Marduk for what Marduk does, and subtlety is not really in their vocabulary, and they have been doing this type of presentation for a long time, and there's Morgan's the only guitar player in the band. And one thing, if you're relying 95% on blast beats, it's painting you into a corner. Yeah. And if you're, Ben says they're doing something a little different lyrically. But musically what they're doing, it's a Marduk record. I could hear his style of playing. The speed, this speed riffing. I mean, the riffs start and resolve the same way that they have for the last 10 records. It sounds they're super simplistic riffs, and even he's gotten so used to playing this style. When they do slow down, the riffs maintain this super simplistic. Like he's still writing for speed, even though so there is room for these riffs to grow into something else when it's maybe a double bass or a slower drum beat, and they really don't. Yeah. One thing he does have going for him is the riffs are so simplistic; they're very memorable. There isn't a whole lot of differentiation riff wise here between these two records. There really isn't. The only thing is this is a shorter record, and this super stupid, ridiculous lyrics. And I mean, and it's funny because I recently saw a live show. It was a Pro Shot live show from this year, and it was funny because they're like doing all these close-ups on the drummer. The guy looked like he was in hell. I mean, yeah, it's a black metal band. You're not supposed to be looking like you're having a good time, but you could tell the constant concentration and the speed that he's doing. He looked like he was questioning his choices in life because this style of drumming does not bode well for longevity. The dude from Cataclysm back in the day, the Northern Hyperblast style, he blew out knees all the time. He had multiple knee surgeries playing the way that he played with that Hyperblast, that the cool era of Cataclysm when Sylvain was in the band. Longevity is not, and just seeing them play, they're so concentrated and trying not to fall off that beat. It's just, I feel bad for them in a way, but again, they painted themselves into a corner. This is what we are. I gotta say, in spite of all of that, I like more variation. I like more dynamic, sure. But when I'm in the mood for this, it checks all the boxes, man. It doesn't need to be complex. It doesn't need to go on this journey. It doesn't need to take me to the, another realm. This is just to grit your teeth and, nod your head along. Maybe the occasional air guitar comes out. Let's talk about the musicality and composition of Memento Mori. Ben.
Okay. Good reference there, TJ. I know that Dead Congregation song.
Oh, it's so good.
Religious Experience. Saw it live.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Blew my fucking mind open. Yeah, like we've been saying, the riffs are really simplistic. I feel like this could be a grind record, really, if it was, tuned lower or something.
And if it was produced shittier.
Yeah. I don't really love the production. Granted, I've been listening to it streaming on like high quality Spotify, but I did download a FLAC of it tonight just before and started listening to it, and I heard things that I was missing. So I'm gonna kind of redact that a little bit, but this just does have a production style that I think is kind of pretty common these days, where it just seems like everything, like every sound is kind of mushed together to give you this metal power to everything. And there are like little flares and nuances that give each instrument and element its identity a little bit. But lately I've just been really in the mood for things that sound very separated and very clean, so that guitars have a huge, lush presence in a mix.
It is Doomtober after all.
It is. So black metal like this and a lot of death metal bands just are mixing things in a way that just really bugs me. And a lot of that too is just the digital sound. Like you can't really replicate that with without analog equipment and all that stuff. So I get it. It's not easy, but overall, I don't love the production on it. There's some things I do like about it. I like that the vocals are like right here. It's like you're just looking down the dude's throat, just watching his tongue go. Blah, 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 blah. It's absolutely insane. I will agree. He's one of the better, most notable black metal vocalists of the last 20 years or so. Love that about it. I love the bass. That's like when they want you to hear the bass, it's like right up here, and there's those tones of like horns or something that are pretty awkward. There's some like flares to the production that I did kind of wind up liking. I think I noticed like vocally, doesn't he kind of sound like Tompa if he had gone like way far past blowing his voice out? I think so.
Tompa's only really sounded good to me on one record.
But yeah, like musicality, I think it's kind of samey. A lot of the songs get kind of lost on me because they kind of sound the same. Once you get to the Shovel Beat Scepter song, I'm like, yes, yeah, you guys can do it. So weave this into some of the other stuff and try out some new things, and you will probably win me back eventually. We'll see if that ever happens. But yeah, musicality is fast. They're obviously insanely talented. It's obvious why he burns through drummers like every 2 or 3 albums. I don't know how he can keep up playing guitar that fast, but like, what are we at now? Is this probably like a 300 BPM? Would you say?
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know if it's quite me. 250 at least, but yeah, I mean, it's up for crazy.
I don't want to go up into the fucking 400s or something. At that point, it's just going to sound like a tone.
Yeah.
I need more punctuation to the rhythm than just that's all it is. And like, I'm with Marty too, by the same coin. I want this sometimes. Sometimes I want dimensionless violence, and I have my albums that give me that, but Marduk just doesn't deliver it for me much of the time. Take an album like Heaven Shall Burn. That is
great record.
That's the way it's got to be.
B-Wars bass, that Rickenbacker tone cuts through the mix. So cool. It's a great record.
Yeah, I love that one. I go back and forth between Opus Nocturne and Heaven Shall Burn is my favorite Marduk. But yeah, that's I didn't have a whole lot of thoughts on production musicality. That's where I landed on that.
All right, Jim.
Musicality, composition. Obviously, the drummer is, anybody that can play that fast for that long is really talented, and anybody that even signs up to be with Marduk is awesome. So no surprise, he's good there. I do like his choices as a drummer, like where he does some like really, well, at least the way that they kind of like put them in the mix, like these floor tom hits he does, they kind of like they boom really low and bassy and kind of fill the bottom of the sound up, and which is really great because obviously with as fast as they are, it's all highs in the EQ here. It's highs in the guitar, it's highs in the snare and the cymbals, and even with the bass, it's you're hearing all the clang. There's no low end, but that's black metal. It's what you expect. But when he hits the floor tom every once in a while, it seems like even throughout the whole album, it's really low and kind of punishing. So I like his playing choices there outside of the obvious, speed and stuff. The bass playing is really, really cool. Like he does a lot of counterpoints. He's definitely, strumming that bass with a pick just as fast as the guitar player is playing. You know, there's that dude is super fast. Everybody's fast in Marduk, no surprise, but it always still is always stunning to me to hear that. And we all know how thick those gauge those strings are, but he's really fast picking that bass. But he's not always following the guitar. He's doing, you know, counterpoints. He's playing fifths and thirds and stuff like that. He's just, you know, he's not just like following, you know, what's the dude's name, Morgan or whatever, all the time. And so, you know, in terms again, musicality, I think it's right up there. It's is the guy, you know, he's not Yngwie or anything on the bass, but what he's doing is he's making interesting choices, which makes it fun to listen to, which adds to the color of the song. I've already commented at length about Mortuus' vocal. Here again, he's got that slimy, slithery sound that's just super intense and yet somehow, you know, intelligible. Like you can, I mean, I can understand what he's saying, which is really weird when he's saying Memento Mori or, you know, as we are and all that stuff. Like you can, even though his voice is really like vomitous, you can still make out for the most part, what he's saying, which is really cool. And, you know, I always admire vocals who can sound brutal, but also, you know, enunciate, you know, and he can do that. So yet another chalk up to them for the musicality. You know, composition, I think it's, you know, it's typical, you know, black metal, like, you know, not a lot of like, I would say it's not an innovative album. There are those moments of color with like the French horns and the double beat scepter. Definitely one of the better songs on the record. There's this weird, it sounds like a bell kind of a sample. I don't know what it's some kind of weird bell type of a sound, but it's just weird and warped and it really it carries and it's like when I listen to the song, I can't wait for that part to come up because it's just so weird. I'm trying to figure out what it is, but I like that. I like that I don't know what it is, and I like that they thought to put something, you know, include something that's like, you know, percussive but yet melodious in there, but also strangely like, you know, affected to a point where you don't really know what it is. It adds, which an album like this that's pure, you know, head bashing all the way through. It adds like a little bit of a mystery to it. So I thought that was a great choice. So I think in the context of Marduk, this is a very, this I think they really have done well with musicality and composition. Like I said, most of the time they don't push, you know, I don't even, you know, I'm always on, you know, they don't push me over the line to pick up their stuff, but you know, I don't know that I need this on vinyl, but I think I would pick it up on CD because I every time I listen to it, I hear a little, what are these tiny little, and yeah, there's not many of them that wouldn't be Marduk if there was like an overlaunch of like weirdness outside of like the black metal orthodoxy, but there's enough here where they're adding stuff, you know, along with their, you know, like typical songwriting for me, where it gives it like a little bit of color, which is weird to say because we're talking about black metal, but haha. So yeah. I kind of commend their choices here, and for me, you know, they're doing it right. The only criticism is I do wish there was editing in terms of how many songs there are. You know, I think this could have been a great, and you know, when you and I were messaging back before Marty was like, yeah, it's kind of like it's super short. But actually it's still like 41 minutes. And for me, I think it could have been 28. It could have been like Rain and Blood long.
Then it would have definitely been Panzer Division 2.0.
but that's what I was wanting from this, because I do feel, and someone said this in the comments, and I totally agree, that when you're playing this brutal that much, a shorter album is perfect, you know, because then it's like
more impact.
You can get in and you can get out, you're ready to listen to something else after, or it's so short you're like, well, that was fun, let me just keep on, let me play that again, you know. And I think with like, you know, adding on to like the last 3 songs, like, you know, it starts to kind of, I'm getting a little, you know, it begins to wear you down, you know, the punishing aspect of the music. But aside from that choice, you know, which isn't like it's kind of a minor gripe. There aren't terrible songs, but I just think overall, What would have helped this album was like a little bit shorter length for me. So that's my one little kind of chink in the armor for musicality composition.
Right on. TJ.
Yeah, so I think we all agree that the vocals on this are just, the utter sickness. Just absolutely killer. The drums, they're insane. They're just beyond comprehension. They're just the over the top turbo power. The guitar tone is just absolutely, I think it's just horrible. I just think it's, I'm getting the production a little bit, but I just feel like it's just, the riffing on this is just so kind of average, and just it's so kind of straight to the point, and just there's not doing anything. It just 4 notes, piece together, next piece, get through the bar, next measure. I just was so kind of, it just completely bored by it. It doesn't do anything. They're put together great. I mean, they definitely know how to put these songs together, piece them together well. There's no disputing any of that. Like I said earlier, it's the album is a powerful testament. It is some bitch thing just rips. But these dudes are talented as shit. But it's just I just found it to be just a snooze fest, because it's just there's just nothing going on. It's just you turn it on, click. Angry Bees, bang, 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 40 minutes, with 2 spots where they slow down, and it's just like, and I get like what Ben was saying, there's moments in where they do like, I love how they intro the record. I thought that was freaking great. I loved how that sounds, the way the song comes in under it, kind of meshes together. The keys on Blood of Funeral, I think that's super sick.
Yeah, keys
there.
or horns. Yeah,
yeah.
To their French, whatever they are. It's cool.
Yeah. The vocal thing on Shovel, Beat Scepter, it's pure menace. I think it's just super killer. There's some moments on here where they do some really neat stuff, but to me it just doesn't add enough life to the tracks overall to really keep my interest in any of it. And again, it's all, this all kind of boils down to preference, and like Ben says, there are bands or records that deliver on this like this for me, but just in a way that this doesn't for me. I just don't, and again, the what did I say? The pure holocaust of the delivery of this is infectious, and it is. You listen to it, and it's just like, holy shit, man! It's just unrelenting, But it's just, I found it to be so just kind of straight up the middle, Just here it is, and I get it, It's kind of an artifact of what these guys are, and that's cool. And again, I told Mar, I don't know that I've ever listened to more than one song by this band at any point in their career. So this is the first time I've ever sat through a full record by them, and and it's not, I wasn't surprised by any of it. I just there was nothing happening that, and again, and I'm not trying to shit on anything per se. I'm just, my personal take on this is just like, dude, I was saying, I'm out here trying to write notes for this, and I was falling asleep. It's, just doesn't do a lot for me, yeah, so whatever.
All right. Well, for me, it is very much Marduk by numbers. I mean, that's been established, and if you know that going in, it's all right, because you buy a Marduk record, you want it to sound like Marduk, I guess. Musicality and composition. Again, the drumming is, I think, the focal point. The drumming and the vocals, definitely, and the message, which we'll get into here in a bit. The musicality, Morgan's a great guitar player. He's super clean in his speed. Like TJ did say, though, there's a lot of 1, 2, 3, 4 type of riffs that where they're going, and the way they resolve it. But having said that, the simplicity of it, the way the songs are constructed, and there's a hook in each song, whether it's a predictable hook or not, a hook nonetheless. It makes me remember each song when it cycles through. And there's a couple songs on here where there's like this thrashy breakdown type, like a notey type thrashy. When those little moments happen, it's like, oh, it isn't just power chords, da 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 da. It isn't that. They do like little noodly thrash moments here and there, which shows their age, which is cool. You could tell they came from that era, maybe a little later than that. But I think the album is well written, and as we're about to get into it here, some songs are better than others, but there's no stinkers on here. They at this point in the game, they know what they are, and they again achieved what they are perfectly. They've raised the bar with intensity. I mean, did they raise it? No, they kind of maybe sped it up a little bit, but it sounds like a Marduk record, and it's really well written. Production. I know Ben already kind of talked about this for a minute, but it's Ben's turn again.
I already did it. I gotta do it again.
Oh, you've already did it. Okay, Jim, production. You kind of talked about production. Did you say everything you wanted to say, or you have more to add to it?
Yeah, I think I did.
The only thing it's missing is Peter Takrin, is what Ben was going to say. Anyway,
I guess what I was going to say that I didn't really. It was like, this just isn't really my kind of thing. So I'm not gonna love this. Modern black metal is kind of mostly lost on me anymore. So it's hard to take this objectively.
Right on. Jim.
Production, there's not a lot of conversation to be had here, because I think this album is meant to be simple. I do think they were going for something kind of stripped down. For me, it's modern, but it sounds raw. I think intentionally so. It's recorded as a 3-piece. Like Ben said in the comments, Mortuus also plays bass on it, and the bass playing is awesome. But I think that kind of like 3-pronged attack, and really comes over into the songwriting and into the rawness of the vocal of the overall delivery of each instrument on this record. So I think production's in service to that. It sounds dirty, it sounds distorted, it sounds ugly, but yet there's a cohesion to it. But it's not off the rails like what we typically would consider to be a raw black metal album. There's still a tightness to it that I think being together, more or less, well, or at least Morgan's been around for 30 years, or he surrounds himself with musicians that are capable of replicating that sort of skill you get from longevity, and it's there, and the production's in service of that as well. So altogether, I think it's like a really good sounding raw black metal album, which sounds like a complete contradiction out loud, but for me it does. I think it sounds just very I think it kind of has a sandpaper feel to the ears, but it's still somehow doesn't make you cringe. They got the levels right. I think the drums are right there where they need to be. The vocals are where they need to be. The guitar, you can always, even though there's snare that threatens to kind of overwhelm what Morgan's doing, I can still make out the riffs. And especially in the first few songs, there's some kind of I don't want to say, slower tempos, but, where you'll lay back a little bit, run on a double bass for the drums, and, lay back on the snare so you can really hear what the guitar playing is doing then. So I have no complaints about it. I already made mention of where they put the floor toms. I think they bounce really hard on the lower registers and fill that space. And the bass is always ever present. It's just looming around, the riffs and making them, I think, more interesting. I think his choices where he's going on, not quite following the guitars, kind of he's following Morgan's guitar in the speed, but not in the execution. And with their choices in the mix to push it like way out front like that, it gives a lot of color, I think, that these riffs might not have otherwise. And and the way that you EQ everything, in the end, and the way you mix everything down definitely contributes to that. And it has to be there. It has to be there first in the performances. But if you've got it there, then the production is only going to take that and make it brighter and more in your face and like, and where it's hard to ignore. And so I think they succeeded in it. So for me, production's right on.
All right, TJ.
Yeah, like I mentioned before, I can't stand the guitar tone on this, but I mean it, like Jim was saying, everything in this production serves its purpose, and it's all cohesive. It sounds really digital to me. It sounds real, maybe it's not, but it's so kind of precise and so kind of clean. And then the guitars and everything just mushes together. I just can't even put my finger on it. It's so kind of fizzed out and screechy. I don't know. I don't like it. I don't know. And but I mean, everything else, I mean, it all works. It's all good. I mean, it's like, you can pull the bass out, because I'm always, thinking about Jim when we listen to these releases, and whenever I really notice the bass, like, there it is. There's this thing, there's Jim's moment, and so it's all in there, and, all the drums and everything, and the vocal, the vocal production on this, and everything's fucking, I mean, his vocals on this are just so freaking killer. I may have found another new favorite, just his delivery on this was killer. But this, there's not much you can say about it. It's kind of a flawless production. It does have a lot of life in it, even though it's still really, to me, it still seems really crisp, but it still comes across really well. And it's just didn't, it's hard for me to kind of really give a crap. So I don't know.
All right. For me, I'm kind of with Jim on this. I understand what TJ is saying about the guitar tone, because the guitar tone on its own, it's very thin, and in a lot of ways, it's kind of an old school black metal tone. Really trill, really a lot of treble to it. But you can hear the definition of the guitar. But what makes it work is the way the guitar and the bass interact. That guitar not having any bass frequency allows that bass to shine a little bit more. It sits on top of the guitar, which I think suits this material really well. Sorry, still getting over the crud. I really like the way the bass and the six string interact, and the drums. It's perfection. You can hear every piece of the kit is right there exploding in your face, and of course, Mortuus sitting so high in the mix. Typically, a super high in the mix vocalist bugs me, but he's such a focal point.
Yeah.
It's so gross, and he's just heaving out his guts on here. It makes me want to listen to the album again. His vocal performance makes me want, I mean, the album itself, it all works for me, but the vocals are the big selling point. I like the production. For a modern production, they did try to keep an old school vibe with the guitar tone, and which because I like raw black metal, and I like that early Swedish tone. And that I think this album reminds us that this is a Swedish black metal album. It sounds Swedish to me. It does. It maybe not as melodic as their brethren from the past are, but it does the job. It says, it's still alive and well. And production for a modern production, you can turn it up in the van. It sounds good. It really, you want it louder, turn it up, and it's there to crush you. Least favorite songs, Ben?
I think Shovel Beats Scepter was the first song I heard, and that's when I thought, they're gonna do some slow stuff. Cool. Still like that track. I think it's kind of ballsy to have so much vocal presence and have the music kind of step back, and it's kind of poetically different. It's kind of bold to be so I don't know, just it's bold to do something so different, I think. And I think they pulled that off pretty well. So that impressed me quite a bit, and it was emblematic of what I wanted the rest of the album to be like. So I kept coming back to that one. But also Year of the Maggot was pretty killer.
Yeah.
I just kind of pulled that one out. I listened to the album probably like 5 or 6 times. I didn't really get to listening to it until like Saturday, I think. So those two are my favorites. And then I was listening again tonight to Blood of the Funeral, and we've talked about it a couple times, but I don't know, the horn stuff or whatever it is in that song. It was like production wise, I think it's kind of a cool idea, but they should have done something with a little more notes to it. Just like the riffs. I feel like this would have been a great record if the riffs had more dimension and notes to them and musicality to them. And there are some great riffs that have some leads to them that are clever and hooky and memorable and just killer. But when it comes back to down what the basic skeleton of this whole album is, it's just 4-note riffs over and over and over that would be a cool bridge from a cool riff to a cool riff. So yeah, Blood of the Funeral, that was my least favorite.
All right, Jim.
For me, like this album is strongest on the front end. I actually really like the first 4 songs all in a row. Memento Mori is a great example of what's coming. I'm a huge Marcus Aurelius fan, so anything that kind of refers back to the Stoics is really cool. Heart of the Funeral, I like that it's short and to the point, and it has that rolling double bass on the verses. And I like that here the drumming is a little bit more tame because it lets the song breathe more. As I mentioned earlier, I do like Blood of the Funeral. Like I like the weird French horns. It is only the 1 note. They probably could have done some more, but I still think it was unexpected for me, so I thought it was really cool.
It's a cool effect. I really like it.
It is.
Agreed.
And Mortuus does a yell on this one that I think, and it's funny because one of our chat brethren mentioned this. He used the same word, scathing, and I actually wrote that in my notes. That when he does this one just drawn out like, but he keeps on going with it. You keep thinking he's going to stop, but he goes for like, dude, it's got to be at least 20 seconds, just like. And I wrote down scathing, and I love it. It's so great.
Gargling gerbil guts.
TJ, if you like his vocals, Funeral Mist, man, I'm telling you got to check out Funeral Mist.
I know the LG Petrov vocal guest part. I didn't really find it.
Huh?
Oh, I didn't even know about that.
LG did a part on it.
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
Noah mentioned it. Noah mentioned it in the chat. I already added it to my playlist, so I'm gonna check it out for sure.
To check it out. So Shovel Beat Scepter, obviously, what a title. And I like, as I mentioned before, that weird bell type sample thing going on. My least favorite song is Coffin Carol. To me, that song had nothing stand out. It was just kind of just there for me. But I love the title, Coffin Carol. I mean, that's fucking hilarious. The title is amazing. But whenever I got to it, I kept finding myself trying to find something interesting in that song. I think it could have been one that was left off, and it's on the latter half of the album, so it makes sense. But Year of the Maggot is just a great full-on assault. Like that's pure Marduk. It's just brutal from beginning to the end, and that has that low floor tom thing like going on a lot. So if you listen for that, and you like that, you'll hear it there. There's more distorted French horns on Red Tree of Blood, the 9th track, and As We Are, it's a good closer. It's the slowest song on the album. It has this like industrial electronic drum thing going on, some kind of weird stuff there. Mortuus, he says "As We Are" in the chorus, so you know what he's saying. It's one of those kind of anthemic type things you can kind of sing along to. I think if we got rid of 6, 7, and 9 and just moved, As We Are up to after a Year of the Maggot, it'd have been that perfect 30 minutes, so but yeah, so really, if you want to really kind of see, I think the best parts of what Memento Mori from Marduk has, then check out the first 4 tracks, and I think that's the sweet spot on this one.
All right, TJ.
Yeah, so I like, there's moments that really stand out to me that are pretty cool, and so I think Shovel Beat Scepter is probably a standout for me because it's like the first part, and early in the record where they actually like, oh look, dynamics, I like I like I like the kind of the vocal intro thing that they do where the one song kind of bleeds out of the other. It's really cool. The what is it, Blood Funeral, we're debating, is it horns or whatever, is that the
Horns or synth or whatever the hell it is.
That's really super cool. And then and at the end it's whatever, and there's other, conceptually I think this is kind of, I like some of the stuff that's going on in here, some of the the concepts and things that he's talking about, and like what the hell song is it where he does that whole spoken word intro thing, kind of deal with the heavy delay on it. There may be one or two lines that I might have changed a little different personally, but overall I thought the little dialogue, or the little whatever you want to call it, little script.
Well, I've got to highlight it. I was going to talk about it. Has it dawned on you yet? Have you begun to grasp that life is not a clock but an hourglass? Are you prepared? Is your rat nest in order? Will your mind be at ease when the shadows grow taller? Your days are numbered, no matter what you've been told. So stop now and consider that you've never been this old. Never been this old. And
I pictured TJ when he says, "Is your rat nest in order?" I pictured you going, "No."
In the twilight of our years, but we're starting to stare at them, and those the lines like that make you go, huh?
Yeah, and and this stuff,
asshole.
I think it's so it's the whole remember the dead, and just all that. So there's aspects of this that are pretty cool, and so I got into that as far as that goes. And as far as good and bad, whatever, I mean, there's some moments that stand on stuff and anything, otherwise it's like I don't have anything else with that. So yeah.
All right. Well, Shovel Beat Scepter is probably my favorite song on here. I like the lyrical thing. It made me, ponder my own mortality, which of course the older you get, you do that more often.
Good times.
Good times, yeah, for sure. A second favorite song on here is Red Tree of Blood. I think that song is really well done. It's pretty fast. They revisit the synth hits in here. Real simple, like a stab here and there. It's a good effect. It's basically a blasting track, but just the riffs are good and the song is well done. Heart of the Funeral. I mean, Memento Mori, the leadoff track, very good. I like TJ mentioned the way the song starts. Very cool. Heart of the Funeral. Mortuus is just pure filth, man. His vocals are just awesome. Mid-pace double bass on this song for most of it, and more spacious riffs allow melodies to seep through, which is a nice touch. Blood of the Funeral, unrelenting speed erupts into simplistic note fills and a breakdown for powerful hook. Love the sinister synth lines or horn or whatever it is, and the tone of it at the end of the song. It really sells the song for me, even though it's just a simple thing. It's a nice touch, and just the sound of it really adds a dimension to it. You're the Maggot, turbocharged thrash riffs stand out amongst the blasting power chords. We've talked on here a bunch about how we like an album to end with a fast statement or something. And it's kind of funny because As We Are ends the album slow, which it's kind of a much needed reprieve after the beating you just took for, 30, how many ever minutes leading up to this song. And it was like the opposite of what we typically praise on here, but it worked the same. It was an impact nonetheless. And there was some weird little industrial stuff on here. It added a little bit of flavor as the album closed, and I'm fine with it. I was glad they ended with a like I said, a break. They gave us a bit of a reprieve at the end. But yeah, I mean, I've got no real complaints. There's nothing on here that stood out. I think this Simon Schilling guy is a beast of a drummer. Mortuus, great bass work. amazing singer. And for those of you, obviously, Funeral Mist is his project that's still going. He was also in the band early on called Triumphator. Have a couple of their CDs. It was good, blasting Swedish black metal. And of course, Morgan, he's been the guy since the beginning. But, cheers to all of them. They did a great job. Judgment, final thoughts, Ben.
My final thought is Marduk is a subscription service. And you just kind of always get a little bit of what you love, but not enough to make you go, this album in particular is way better than the rest or anything. It's just you always get
the most fun for me. Panzer Division Marduk. It's just fast and stupid, catchy.
And that one was like, I'm sure you guys all know, but like that one was too dumb for me. That's a bridge too far.
It's pretty dumb.
It's fucking.
So you've got Christ raping black metal, fist fucking God's planet. I mean, it's just stupid. So stupid, but it's so catchy and fun. I don't know. It's a fun road trip record. Anyway,
and they redid that album probably 5 fucking times before they thought, you know what, maybe we better change it up a little bit.
I was thinking, maybe, Anyway,
it became their identity, and so now they're like, if you take the Marduk train too far off of the track, you're going to lose everybody. So you got to keep on doing the same thing. They painted themselves into a corner, like you said, and they're going to have some. So their successes are only going to be 5% better than their lows. It's just how it's going to be.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll be in the mood for it. I'm trying to think. I think the last one I bought was probably ROM 512 or something. And like I listen to these albums every once in a while, but yeah, I don't buy them. I don't care about them really, and I forget about them. And then when another one comes out, I go, well, I do kind of want to hear it.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm not paying for the streaming service, but I'm coming over when the fight's on.
You're downloading the fight after 5 minutes after it ends for free. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jim.
I think this is cool. Like Marduk for me is like I said, I only own one album there is Wormwood. And I'd actually consider buying this one. And like I said, I don't think I need it on vinyl. I think I would just pick up the CD, but I think there's enough there that's interesting for me to pick it up. Like I mentioned several times, I really love the bass work and the fact that it's always there and up there in the mix. And to me, it just really adds a really cool dimension to this album. The lyrics are cool. The song titles are great. Just kind of like, everything you want in a black metal. And yeah, the tiny bit of experimentation you hear in little bits and pieces here and there, and especially on As We Are, they do add color. My only complaint again overall is I wish it was just a little bit shorter. I think that cut out 3 songs and they would have been right there, or at least 2. But so yeah, for me, it's an 8 out of 10. And I might be adding it to my CD collection here.
If you like this one, from what I know, you probably can't go wrong buying any of their other ones. But
they're all good. They're all good. Yeah,
those first 4 are really, really killer. Seek those out, I would say,
for sure. TJ.
Yeah, so I don't really have any final thoughts about this at all. I don't really care about this at all. So I'm going to try some. So I've been saving these. So did you know that Mortuus, Daniel Rostein, I don't know. I like to mispronounce foreign names because it's a thing. Did you know that his zodiac sign is Taurus, and that the fans swoon over his good looks and dance styles? He is the most pampered member of Marduk, and he's also the most unpredictable member of the band, and does things so randomly, and that's why he's the funniest member of Marduk. I'm not sure if these are right, but anyway, yeah, whatever, man. So there's that. So out of final thoughts, man, it's a blast fest. It's a blast furnace. It's a knuckle dragon, black metal extravaganza that I just don't care about. you know, it's just not in my wheelhouse. It's not my thing. I totally get the appeal of it. I totally, you know, these guys are crazy talented, and I mean, this shit just rips your face off. It really does, but I just don't, you know, it's just not my thing, man. And you know, not this particular style. They're you know, just not this one. So whatever. I don't really have any, you know, I don't whatever they can, you know, I don't care. So just hey everybody.
All right.
Till next week. With TJ.
For me, I agree with Jim. It's an 8 out of 10 record. Is it their best album? No. It's one of their fastest. And I think the songs are good. Even though there isn't a lot of variation, there isn't a lot of dynamics. When they are offered, it's good. It's a good impact. I really like the songs. They're well written. 8 out of 10 for me. I've listened to it. I mean, granted, I picked it, so I listened to it a lot to review it, but I heard it digitally and bought it on CD. And I'm with Jim. I was fine with just the CD version of this.
Yeah.
There's an expanded version, like a big, thick digibook with all these with extra songs. I just went with the plain Jane, which as I was taking off the plastic, I broke the case, which is, you know, that's always fun when you get a new CD and you're taking off the shrink wrap and you break the case without even opening it yet. I love that. That's one of my favorite things.
I've done that hundreds of times.
That's so stupid. It's like, the click, click, click when it hits the floor. I'm like, damn it.
Yeah.
But anyway.
I'll have to show you my method sometime. I've got a perfect method for opening a CD here. I can probably do it. You gotta stick your thumb in there right along the spine, and then you slide it up, and then you pull it out.
You should do a YouTube channel on that, and you'll get 5 million views for dumb people like me. I keep my favorite thing are those stupid UPC stickers that wrap around.
Oh
You have
man.
to like pull it off like this and then rip it off, and it's still
I got a method for that one too. Yeah, I'll have to do a
leaves all
video.
the gum. And then you put it next to a CD with a digipack, and when you tear them apart on the case, it like rips the digipack shit off. It's fun. I love it. What a great marketing tool. Thanks. Thank you, major record labels. What a great idea you had. Anyway, yeah. So there we go. Marduk Memento Mori, and next week Ben will be here again with us, and because of that, we're letting him pick. So what are you picking for us?
Thanks a lot.
I think we're going to take it easy on TJ. This is going to be something completely different. And if you don't already love this, TJ, I think you will. I picked Saturnus's Paradise Belongs to You.
That's a good album. Yeah.
We're going to dig deep into that one.
Some Dutch Doom, huh?
Yeah. Familiar, Jim?
Oh yeah.
I am not. This will be new ground for me, Ben. What will you put the title in the chat there so I can
Paradise Belongs to You.
Oh,
I
well,
actually have that CD.
Yep.
nice.
I know these guys actually. I have this album saved and it's in my stuff. Yeah, cool.
Cool.
And for those of you who don't know, the lead singer on that album went on to do the apocalyptic folk band
The
Wand and the Moon, which if you're into Death in June, it's kind of Death in June worship, maybe a little more stripped down. It's good shit. I kind of lost track of them after a while, but I have CDRs of the first 4 or 5 records, and they're all good. If you like that type of stuff, which I do on occasion, it's great. Good stuff.
Sonnenheim is good.
Yeah, that's the last one I have is Sonnenheim. Good album. Anyway, yeah, that'll be a fun one. Saturnus, Paradise Belongs to You. I'll have to blow the dust off of that one.
It's a Doomtober masterpiece. We'll see.
Well, cool. That's it. Anybody have anything to add before we jump ship?
Free Palestine.
There you go. Anybody else? Nope. Show notes. Yeah, Alan's done a couple reviews. I've been working and sick, so I haven't edited it yet, but there's going to be a review of the new Sulfur Aeon. I'm going to try to get it up by tomorrow. If not, it'll be Friday. And then there'll be another review on Monday.
I want it on my desk.
Wayfarer, the new Wayfarer. Alan's been busy. He's been cranking out reviews, which is great because I have not had the mental space to do such things. But
Me neither.
anyway, everybody, we had a great time. Thank you as always for joining us. It's been a wonderful Wednesday. A lot of fun. Gentlemen, as always, it's a pleasure. And we will see you next time. Cheers.
Praise the devil.